In the 10th century BCE, a tiny bird became the most important diplomat in the ancient world. This creature traveled over 1,200 miles across burning deserts, discovered a hidden kingdom ruled by a mysterious queen, and delivered a message that would unite two empires without a single drop of blood being shed. This is not a fairy tale. This is recorded in the sacred texts of three major religions. This is the story of how one bird's curiosity changed the course of history. To understand this incredible story, we first need to meet one of history's most legendary rulers, King Solomon. Solomon ruled Israel from approximately 970 to 931 BCE. He was the son of King David and the third king of the United Kingdom of Israel, but Solomon wasn't just any king. He built the first temple in Jerusalem, one of the ancient world's greatest wonders. His wealth was so immense that the Bible says the king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones. But here's where it gets really interesting. According to religious texts, the Jewish Tanakh, the Christian Bible, and the Islamic Quran, Solomon possessed extraordinary supernatural abilities. He could understand and speak with animals. Every creature, from the smallest ant to the largest beast, birds would report to him. Even the winds and invisible spirits called jinn obeyed his commands. The Quran states, "O mankind, we have been taught the language of birds, and we have been given from all things." Solomon organized his forces into three divisions: humans, jinn, and birds. Yes, you heard that right, birds were an official part of his military structure. They served as his aerial reconnaissance unit, his eyes in the sky. Each species had specific duties. And Solomon was strict about discipline. He held regular military inspections, and every creature, even the birds, had to answer roll call. It was during one of these routine inspections that something unusual happened. Something that would set in motion one of history's most remarkable stories. But before we get to that moment, let's meet the star of our story, the hoopoe. The hoopoe's scientific name, Hoopoe epops, is one of nature's most striking birds. About 10 inches long with a wingspan of nearly 2 feet, it's impossible to miss. Its most distinctive feature? A magnificent crown of orange and black feathers that can raise and lower like a royal headdress. Its body is cinnamon-colored, with bold black and white striped wings. It has a long, curved black beak perfect for probing into the ground, and its flight pattern is unique, an undulating, butterfly-like motion through the air. And its call? Hoop, 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 which is exactly how it got its name. But the hoopoe isn't just beautiful. These birds are remarkably intelligent. They have exceptional navigational abilities, can remember locations across vast distances, and possess an observant, curious nature. The ancient Egyptians considered them sacred. They appear in hieroglyphs and royal tombs. These birds migrate between Europe, Africa, and Asia, travelers of the ancient world. So why did Solomon choose hoopoes for his reconnaissance force? Think about it, natural scouts with incredible vision could travel vast distances quickly. Distinctive appearance made them recognizable as royal messengers. Their intelligence made them trainable. And here's a fascinating detail from Islamic tradition: hoopoes were believed to detect underground water sources. In a desert kingdom, that's an invaluable skill. These weren't just pretty birds. They were highly specialized intelligence operatives. And one of them was about to make a discovery that would shock a king. It started as an ordinary day. King Solomon sat on his throne, conducting his regular military inspection. One by one, the birds appeared before him: eagles, hawks, doves, each reporting for duty, each accounted for. And then Solomon noticed something. Someone was missing. The hoopoe wasn't there. The Quran records Solomon's exact words: "Why do I not see the hoopoe? Or is he among the absent?" Now, this might seem like a small thing. One bird missing from formation. But in Solomon's court, discipline was everything. Unauthorized absence wasn't tolerated, not from humans, not from jinn, and certainly not from birds. Solomon declared, "I will surely punish him with a severe punishment or slaughter him unless he brings me clear authority." This wasn't a joke. This wasn't an idle threat. The hoopoe was a WO absent, without leave. In a military structure, that's a serious offense, even for a bird. But notice something important here. Solomon was willing to listen. Unless he brings me clear authority, unless he has a legitimate excuse. Even in his anger, Solomon was just... The bird would get a chance to explain. So where was the hoopoe? Had it been captured? Killed by a predator? Lost? Or had it found something so important, so earth-shattering, that it was worth risking the king's wrath? The court waited. Solomon waited. The other birds waited. And then the hoopoe returned. But this bird didn't arrive cowering in fear. It didn't beg for mercy. No, it landed before the throne with its head held high because it carried news that would change everything. Imagine the scene. The most powerful king in the world, angry at a missing soldier, and a small bird standing before him, about to make an audacious claim. The Quran records the hoopoe's words. I have encompassed in knowledge that which you have not encompassed. Think about that statement for a moment. This bird just told Solomon, the wisest man alive, the prophet king who could speak with all creatures, that it knew something he didn't. That takes incredible courage, or incredible confidence. Or both, and it had Solomon's complete attention. The bird continued its report, and what it described was astonishing. Indeed, I found a woman ruling them, and she has been given of all things, and she has a great throne. A woman ruler. In the ancient world, that alone was extraordinary. But there was more. I found her and her people prostrating to the sun instead of Allah. Satan has made their deeds pleasing to them and averted them from his way, so they do not prostrate to Allah. The hoopoe had discovered the kingdom of Sheba in what is now modern-day Yemen, over 1,200 miles from Jerusalem. 1,200 miles, across burning deserts, over hostile territories. And this bird had made the journey, observed a foreign kingdom, and returned to report. Now, the kingdom of Sheba wasn't just any kingdom. This was one of the wealthiest civilizations in the ancient world. Sheba controlled the spice trade routes between Africa, Arabia, and the Mediterranean. They dealt in frankincense, myrrh, gold, precious stones, and exotic woods. These were the luxury goods that empires craved. They had advanced technology, including the famous Mrib Dam, an engineering marvel that still stands in ruins today. This kingdom was sophisticated, powerful, and rich beyond imagination. And ruling over all of it? A woman. Islamic tradition calls her Bilqis, though her name isn't mentioned in the Quran. A female ruler in a time when such things were almost unheard of. But here's what concerned Solomon. They worshipped the sun. In ancient Yemen, sun worship was sophisticated and organized. They had temples, priesthoods, elaborate rituals, all dedicated to celestial bodies instead of the one God. For Solomon, a prophet of monotheism, this was serious. Here was a great civilization with all the wealth and power in the world, but spiritually misguided. Something had to be done. But what? He could send his army. He had the power to conquer them. But Solomon didn't become known for wisdom by choosing the easy path of violence. He made a different choice. A choice that would define this entire story. Solomon decided to write a letter. Not a declaration of war, not demands for tribute. A letter, an invitation to dialogue. And the contents of this letter are recorded in the Quran word for word. Indeed, it is from Solomon, and indeed it is, in the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, be not haughty with me, but come to me in submission. Look at the structure of this message. It's brief, it's direct. It starts with God's name, the Islamic formula that begins with mercy and compassion. It's not threatening, but it's firm. It's an invitation, not an ultimatum. He doesn't demand she abdicate her throne. He doesn't threaten invasion. He appeals to reason, to faith, to something higher than political power. This is diplomacy at its finest. And now came the crucial question. Who would deliver this message? There was only one choice. The bird that had made the discovery. The bird that had proven its intelligence, its courage, and its loyalty. The hoopoe would carry the message 1,200 miles back across the desert. Imagine the responsibility. Imagine the trust. A bird carrying a letter from one king to another. The fate of kingdoms literally resting on wings. For days the hoopoe flew, over endless sands, through scorching heat, across mountains and valleys, navigating by instinct and memory to a destination 1,200 miles away. And finally, the palace came into view. The bird circled, looking for the queen. It couldn't just drop the letter anywhere. This required precision, royal protocol. Even a bird understood that. And then it found its moment. The Queen of Sheba sat in council with her advisors, discussing matters of state. Guards stood at attention. Courtiers whispered. And suddenly a bird flew in, dropped a sealed letter at the queen's feet, and withdrew to a safe distance, watching. Chaos. Guards drew weapons. Courtiers gasped. What kind of omen was this? A bird delivering a message? But the queen raised her hand. Silence fell. She stared at the letter, at the seal, at the bird watching from the shadows. and slowly she reached down and picked it up. The Queen of Sheba broke the seal and read the letter. And we know her exact first words, recorded in the Quran. O eminent ones! Indeed to me has been delivered a noble letter. Notice what she said. A noble letter. Not a threatening letter. Not an insulting letter. She recognized immediately the quality of the correspondence, the gravity of the situation. She called an emergency session of her council. This was serious. A foreign king, apparently a powerful one, had somehow managed to deliver a message directly to her throne room via a bird. She said, "O eminent ones, advise me in my affair. I would not decide a matter until you witness for me." This tells us so much about her character. She was powerful enough to rule alone, but wise enough to seek counsel. She didn't make snap decisions, she listened. Her military commanders spoke first. Their advice? War. We are men of strength and of great military might, but the command is yours, so see what you will command. And they weren't bluffing. Sheba had a powerful army. They controlled vast territories. They could fight. They were ready to fight. But the queen thought differently. And what she said next shows why she was one of history's great rulers. Indeed, kings, when they enter a city, they ruin it and render the honored of its people humiliated. And thus do they do. This is political wisdom that still rings true today. War destroys civilization. Conquest humiliates the conquered. Even if you win, you lose something irreplaceable. She had a different plan, a smarter plan. She would send gifts. Lavish gifts. The finest treasures her kingdom could offer. But this wasn't tribute. This wasn't submission. This was a test. Think about her strategy. If Solomon accepts the gifts, he's just another greedy king. She can negotiate, maybe buy him off, avoid conflict. But if he rejects the gifts, if wealth means nothing to him, then he's truly a spiritual leader, a prophet king. And that changes everything. So the caravan set out, 1,200 miles back to Jerusalem, carrying gold, precious stones, finest fabrics, the wealth of Sheba, and the queen waited to see what kind of man this Solomon really was. The Sheba delegation arrived in Jerusalem with ceremony and spectacle, camels laden with treasures, servants carrying chests of gold, the finest gifts any kingdom could offer. They presented their offerings to King Solomon with elaborate speeches. Surely they thought no king could resist such wealth. Solomon barely glanced at the treasures. His response was direct and cutting. Do you provide me with wealth? But what Allah has given me is better than what He has given you. Rather, it is you who rejoice in your gift. The delegates were stunned. They had brought enough wealth to buy cities, and this king dismissed it like dust. Solomon sent them back with a message. Tell your queen to come herself. Come in submission to the one true God, or I will come with an army she cannot resist. The test was complete. The queen had her answer. This was no ordinary king. She made her decision. She would go to Jerusalem. She would meet this Solomon face to face. She would see for herself what kind of man commanded birds and rejected the wealth of nations. She prepared for a royal journey, an enormous entourage, her best advisors, her finest guards. And most importantly, she would travel in peace, not war. But while the queen's caravan made its way across the desert, Solomon was planning something extraordinary. He asked his court, "Who among you can bring me her throne before they come to us?" And Ifrit, a powerful jinn, stepped forward. "I will bring it to you before you rise from your place." But then another voice spoke up. One who had knowledge of the scripture, possibly Solomon's vizier, said, "I will bring it to you before your glance returns to you. Before you blink." And in an instant, faster than a blink, the queen's throne appeared in Jerusalem. 1,200 miles. Instantly transported. But Solomon didn't just take her throne. He had it modified, enhanced, disguised slightly. A test within a test. And somewhere in that throne room, watching all of this unfold, was a small bird with a crown of feathers. The bird that had started it all. After weeks of travel, the Queen of Sheba finally arrived in Jerusalem. She came in peace, but with all the majesty of her kingdom behind her. Solomon received her in his greatest palace. A palace like nothing she had ever seen. The first test was waiting. Solomon presented a throne and asked casually, "Is your throne like this?" She looked at it carefully. It was her throne. "But different, enhanced, how is this possible?" She said. It is as though it were diplomatic, careful, not committing fully. This woman was nobody's fool. But the real revelation was yet to come. Solomon invited her to enter his palace. and what she saw stopped her in her tracks. The palace floor appeared to be water, deep, clear water with fish swimming beneath. But it was solid. How? The Quran records, she thought it was a body of water and uncovered her shins, preparing to wade through. Solomon stopped her. Indeed, it is a palace whose floor is made smooth with glass or polished crystal. Advanced engineering that made the impossible seem real. In that moment, everything shifted for her. She had come to meet a king, she found a prophet. She had come relying on her wealth and power. She found something wealth couldn't buy and power couldn't command. Solomon shared his wisdom, his understanding of the one God, his vision of faith beyond materialism. And the queen, this powerful, intelligent ruler, listened, truly listened. And then she spoke the words that would define her legacy. My lord, indeed I have wronged myself, and I submit with Solomon to Allah, Lord of the worlds. She had converted. Not through conquest, not through force. Through wisdom, demonstration, and dialogue. A pagan queen became a believer in the one God, two kingdoms, 1,200 miles apart. Different cultures, different languages. United through faith and mutual respect. An alliance was formed, trade flourished, cultural exchange began, and no blood had been shed. The story spread across 3 continents. It entered the sacred texts of Jews, Christians, and Muslims. It inspired artists, poets, and dreamers for millennia. Ethiopian tradition says she bore Solomon a son, Menelik I, who founded a royal dynasty. Some Islamic traditions say she married Solomon or one of his nobles. Others say she returned to Sheba and ruled wisely for many more years. Her kingdom continued to prosper. The Mrib Dam stood for centuries. Sheba's civilization influenced the region for generations. And somewhere in all of this, a small bird with a crown of feathers watched history unfold. A history it had helped create. Let's not forget how this all started. A bird. A curious, intelligent bird who saw something important and brought the news home. Without the hoopoe's observation, Solomon never learns about Sheba. Without the hoopoe's courage to return after being a WOL, the message never gets delivered. Without the hoopoe's intelligence in finding the queen and delivering the letter perfectly, none of this happens. One bird, one decision to investigate something unusual, changed the course of 2 kingdoms. That's the butterfly effect in real historical tradition. This story appears in the Quran Surah 27, called An-Naml, the ant. It appears in the Bible 1 Kings chapter 10 and 2 Chronicles chapter 9. It appears in the Ethiopian Kebra Nagast. 3 major world religions all preserve this account. Because of this story, the hoopoe is protected in many Islamic countries. It's seen as blessed, sacred, a reminder that God uses even the smallest creatures for great purposes. The story inspired countless works of art, Persian miniatures, Ottoman manuscripts, Ethiopian paintings, medieval European depictions. Every culture that touched this story added their own artistic vision. The great Persian poet Adar wrote The Conference of the Birds, where a hoopoe leads all birds on a spiritual journey to enlightenment. The hoopoe became a symbol of wisdom, guidance, and spiritual seeking. In 2008, Israel held a national vote and chose the hoopoe as their national bird. A living connection to their ancient history. And the Queen of Sheba. She remains one of history's most fascinating figures. A powerful woman in ancient times, a wise diplomat, a seeker of truth. She's appeared in films, books, operas, paintings, a timeless icon of intelligence and courage. But what does this ancient story teach us today? That communication beats confrontation, that wisdom outweighs weapons, that small actions can have enormous consequences, that different peoples, different faiths, can find common ground through honest dialogue and mutual respect. That intelligence exists throughout creation, and we should respect it. And that sometimes history's greatest diplomats have wings. If you enjoyed uncovering this incredible historical mystery, subscribe to Past X Proof for more stories where ancient texts meet modern analysis.